Hello, everybody. How's it going? I hope everybody's here today for the broadcast. This is my first real broadcast here using my new live broadcast software that I'm going to be using called StreamYard. So, welcome everybody. I hope that everybody was able to get up this morning. If you're watching this after the broadcast, this is something that I'm looking at doing on a fairly regular basis. I want to uh, try to do my best here to. Let's just remove that there. I want to try to do my best to have some live broadcasts and live streams here on my YouTube channel, which is Learning and Technology with Frank. But I've also sent this out to Facebook and LinkedIn and even Twitter. So no matter how you're joining me, whether you're joining me through Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, welcome. So what I'm going to do, oh, hey, Andrew, how's it going? I see that you're joining us all the way from the UK. So that makes me very happy. I was hoping that I would pick a time that would work for people that are part of my audience from all over. So welcome from the UK. I'm glad that you're joining us. I'm here in Calgary, Canada. I don't know if you know that. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at Microsoft Whiteboard. So this is a topic that I put on my channel quite a bit. I have a number of videos, but I wanted to really do a live demo of the whiteboard because I think that's really where the power of the whiteboard comes. A lot of times when I'm doing remote teaching, one of the challenges that I have is that I end up, I don't want to just do PowerPoints. I don't just want to have this sort of metrodome of, next slide, next slide, next slide. That can be very boring for the audience. So the whiteboard is really a product that I think is very useful for any type of online collaboration, teaching, or anything along those lines, because we can kind of dynamically build up the conversation with everybody watching. And that's really what this live stream is about as well. I'm going to dynamically try to build the whiteboard with you and talk about the features of the whiteboard as you can ask questions, and I can go in and I can, demonstrate things live, trying to make it a bit more dynamic. So I did come up with a little bit of an agenda here for today. So let me just pop that up on the screen. I am driving both the presentation as well as the software here. So the agenda that I had for today was I wanted to, first of all, talk about the fact that right now we have two types of Microsoft whiteboards. We have a whiteboard that's available for Teams and on the web, and then we have a whiteboard that we can download. And then I was going to do a demonstration of both of those. Now, the thing is with the Microsoft Whiteboard is initially what happened was we had the one that we would download or we would have with Teams / the web. And it was great. We used that quite a bit. But then what ended up happening is Microsoft made a change to that whiteboard. So they updated it and we got a new version of the whiteboard, which is great. I'll demonstrate that today. But there were some challenges that we had with it. Some things that were missing. I actually made a video about that on my channel. And Microsoft actually contacted me after that video and said, hey, you identified some things here with the whiteboard that you don't like, to be blunt. And they were very, very, very receptive to the idea that they were getting feedback on the new whiteboard, that it wasn't working in the same way that the old one was. And in some ways, it was actually diminishing our ability to do what I was talking about, that whole, being able to go in and being able to dynamically work with our students or whoever we're collaborating with. So they reverted it back. So we do have two versions of the whiteboard, but I do believe that at some point it'll still become one version of the whiteboard. So it'll be a consistent experience, whether it's Teams, whether it's the web, or whether it's the download version. So I just want to go and make sure that everybody knows that as well. Now, just a quick thing. I'm not sure how many folks are here. I'm still getting used to the software here. If you hear the audio and you see the video or whatever, if you just want to pop something in there and say, I can hear you, I can see you. Otherwise, I guess I'll find out at the end of this very long live stream what's going on. And feel free to ask questions as we go along or ask for anything specific that you might want me to do for you so that you can get more comfortable with the whiteboard. Okay, so that's our agenda. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So let's have a look, first of all, at some of the whiteboards here. I'm just going to add on to the stream here. So the Microsoft Whiteboard really comes in two different flavors, and that is the web flavor, and that is the download version. So when you go to the web, if you want to take a look at the Microsoft Whiteboard on the web, what you'll do is you'll go into app.whiteboard.microsoft.com, and this is the interface for the new version. I'm just going to very briefly talk about this, show you the two versions, and I'll demonstrate each. You have over here, you have a box where you can take a number of different actions. I'll go through and demonstrate those to you. We have a pen and control box here, and then we have the ability to switch to the pen box, turn it on and off, and I'll go through and demonstrate that. We also have a version of the whiteboard that we can download. And the version of the whiteboard that we can download, if you go here, and I'll just grab the URL for this, and I'll see if I can pop this right into the chat for you guys. So let's pop this into the chat here. This URL will allow you to go through and download a copy of the Microsoft Whiteboard. So you'll be able to go in, you'll be able to connect up to the whiteboard here. That'll be in the chat, will be in the comments down below, whatever platform you're using. And you can download the digital whiteboard, and you can then have it installed on your system. So those are the two versions of the whiteboard. And when you install it, you'll end up with this whiteboard here. And this is the main whiteboard that we're using. So I'll make sure that I demonstrate both of these. So they are a little bit different in terms of the interface right now. I should change this to this. So it is a little bit different in terms of the interface. This one would be my favorite. So this version of the whiteboard is actually my favorite version of the whiteboard because in my opinion, it's the more full-featured version of the whiteboard. So if you have the option, I do recommend downloading it. Now, the other thing that sometimes people ask me is it available on a Mac? Well, certainly the Teams version and the Teams version and the web-based version is available on a Mac. So you can utilize those. There are some other alternatives that you can use if you're running Mac OS. Those are available, and I have some videos on the channel about that as well. Okay, excuse me. Let's dive into the whiteboard and get to the heart of what we came here for today, which is some whiteboard demos. So I'll just pop myself to the side here. So if we have a look here at the whiteboard, I just want to show you there's two menus that are part of the whiteboard. Down here at the bottom, you can see that I have a large pen palette with the download version of the whiteboard. So we have multiple pens. If I want to change the color of a pen, if you just press and hold on that pen, right, you can see you have a whole range of colors. Some fun ones are we have some sparkly pens here, a gold pen and such. But you can go in and you can have a pretty nice palette of pen colors here. There are a total here of 6 different pen colors, and that's very useful. I like having a fairly large palette of colors. I'm a little bit color driven myself. You can see here we have a highlighter. If you hold the highlighter, it's actually quite neat because you can have multiple different colored highlighters as well. And I think that's pretty handy. You have an eraser. We'll talk about also erasing a larger amount of content. You have a ruler. Now the ruler is something, I didn't think too much about the ruler before, but I had a lot of people comment when they took the ruler away that they were using this quite a bit for math. So a lot of math instructors and teachers were using this. So you can see that I can draw a line here, get a nice line, and you can adjust the angle with your center mouse as well. So you can go in, you can draw lines on there. Now the lasso here, you can go in. This allows me to select a larger number of objects. So if I choose the lasso, I'm just scrolling in here, so I gotta make sure I scroll out. You can scroll in and out in terms of the size of the objects that you have as well. But if I choose to go to the lasso here, and I can actually grab an object, so you can see select the entire object, then I have the option of I can go in and do ink beautification. That's more if I'm writing. I'll show you that in a moment. I can go in and I can work with the color. I can copy it. I can cut it, or I can delete it altogether. So go here. We can put text in here. So this is if your handwriting is horrible, you can go and type. So that looks pretty good. Now, one of the things that we can do here as well with the text is, again, you can edit it. You can also give objects a like or a thumbs up. We'll talk about that in a moment. I can change the color of the text. I can copy it, delete it. And there are some other options here in terms of using an alt text. So I can do an alt text if I have an object and I want to add text to it, let's say for accessibility reasons. So So there's a little mic issue there. Let's see here. I'm going to try to move that there. Thank you very much, Andrew, for the feedback. Hopefully hopefully it still comes through clear. We can do an alt text, which is really good for things like if we have accessibility. So if I put an object on there, I can put an alt text so that if anybody has, say, a vision issue, they can use that alt text. So that's handy as well. So we can go in there. This is text, and I'll actually delete that as well. So we can go in. Another thing we can do is we can use notes. Notes are very good. And one of the things I really like about the notes in the download version of the whiteboard is that when I have the notes here, I can go in, select the note, I can move them, and I can have the notes in a very dynamic format. You're going to see when I go into the web-based or the Teams-based version of the whiteboard, these are some of the things that are not going to be there. We're going to have a smaller pen palette. We're not going to be able to be as clever with the notes. So if I go in here, you can see with the notes, again, I get the menu across the top. I won't repeat myself. But one of the things that's useful here is I can change the color of different notes. That's very handy. The other thing that I can do is I can grab a note and I can scale that note and twist that note if I want to. And a very handy thing here is, of course, I can copy that note and then I can paste multiple copies of that note down. So if I want to, I can paste that note. So this is very handy if I'm building up a whiteboard with a class. I want that ability to really be able to talk and work at the same time. Now, I'm not 100% sure because obviously I don't work for Microsoft, but I think there's a lot of the alternate whiteboards to Microsoft are really big on collaboration. So everybody's talking about, let's have a whiteboard, let's collaborate on the whiteboard, and that's fantastic. However, what's happened is a little bit of the whole throwing away the baby with the bathwater, where the collaboration features are super handy, and I love collaborating on a whiteboard, but I also just want to use it as a presentation tool, a dynamic presentation tool, and that's where I think some of the things were taken away when we got the new version. One of the things I really like about this menu as well is I can go into images. Now, when I go into images here, I can choose a library image where I choose my own photos. So if I go in and choose a library image, this will allow me to go in. I'll just grab these off my personal OneDrive here, and I have some images here. I can prepare images in advance. So here I go, I can grab this image and pop this onto my whiteboard, and now I can discuss this image. I find this extremely useful when I'm teaching. So by doing a little bit of preparation in advance and having some images there, I can grab images and then I can mark them up. So let's say I'm planning a hiking trip. I can say when we go on our hike, one of the things we want to make sure we do is we make sure that we have a fire, but we don't have too many logs near the fire so we don't burn down the beach, something along those lines. So I want to make sure that, that I have those images available. One of the things I like about the download version of the Microsoft Whiteboard is we can actually go into our camera and we can take a camera image, so whatever camera that we're using, and I can go into a Bing image. So I can actually go in here and I could search. So I could search for something like hiking boots. And then if I search for this, we can go in and I can grab an image from a Bing search. And this is something that is not available in the new version, not yet. Maybe they will add it in. One of the things I will say as well is Microsoft has been very receptive to hearing ideas about the whiteboard. So I had a meeting with them online, and they were very receptive to hearing some of the ideas. So let's see what comes of that. So here you can see now I've got the boots, and then of course I can annotate it, and I can say, one of the most important things when it comes to boots is making sure that you have good ankle support. You want to make sure you have good ankle support on the boot. So hopefully this is all making sense, and you can sort of see how I'm building up a dynamic whiteboard, how I'm having a conversation with my audience as I'm working on the whiteboard. Very, very handy. And then these are all of the menu items here, but there's also this plus sign, which just expands this rapidly. So you can see I can go in, I can paste. We had that before. I can put a note grid on there. So if I want to do a grid of notes to have a conversation, that can be quite handy as well. You can see here with the note grid, I can name it. I can go in and add more notes to it, right? So that becomes pretty useful. I can go in here as well. I can create a list. maybe I'll move the whiteboard over here, get a little bit more real estate here. It's also an infinite canvas, so I can move anywhere I want on this whiteboard, which I really like. So I can put in a list, task list in here. And one of the things that's very useful with the task list is I can go in, I can sort that list based upon a column. I can also go in and I can change it to a checklist. So now instead of a list here, I can change it. Well, I'll put some comments in here, but you can see I've got a checklist now. So now I've got a little checklist in here that I can go. One of the things that I really like is one of the things I like is that you can like. So I can go in here and if I have a large checklist, especially when I'm collaborating, people can come in and like what I put onto this list. And that's super useful, right? So that's another useful feature of the download version. You can do a follow-up list, which is really a checklist here, but you can do assignments on the follow-up list. I can come in and I can do a template. Now, this is where the new web-based, team-based whiteboard absolutely is fantastic. You can go in and the templates they have for that product are extensive. Now, if I go into template, I am limited to the templates provided by Microsoft. So you'll see here that there's no tool here for me to create my own templates. If you like, I can show you, I use a bit of a trick for that. What I'll do is I'll build a whiteboard, then I'll save that whiteboard, and then I'll just copy the whiteboard to create my own fake little templates. But it would be nice if I could build and store a template into a shared repository. So that would be something I would give feedback to Microsoft on. Now, here's where we get some real power. So one of the things that a lot of people ask for is the ability to bring a PDF into the whiteboard or a Word document or a PowerPoint. Now, I'll demonstrate using a PowerPoint, but this applies to all three document types. So if I come in here and I go to bring a PowerPoint in here, once again, I'll just grab it off my OneDrive. So I have a sample PowerPoint that I put here. I can insert one slide, or I can insert all the slides or select whatever slides I want. So in my case, I'll just choose this one slide, and I could choose all slides if I wanted, and I'll insert that slide in. Now here, this can be a very dynamic way of working with PowerPoint in a whiteboard setting. Because what I'm able to do now is I can go in and I can, I can zoom in on different things. I can, zoom in, zoom out on different things. So we'll zoom out a bit here. Whoa, going the wrong way. So we'll zoom here to, so we get it on our screen. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger for you guys. And as always, just comment in the chat there if there's anything that you need me to do or any questions you have. That's one of the things that I'm hoping to get if I do more of these live presentations, is I really want to interact with everybody so that you can ask questions and so that I can help you out. Or you can just watch. So if I go in here, so now I'm going to annotate on here. So notice I can say stuff. I'm making stuff up here, but I could say something like, make sure that you have crampons so that you can actually stick to the snow, and ski poles are always very handy, and your backpack should not weigh more than a small car, things like that. So we have all of these types of things that I can do, and I can annotate this, and then watch this. If I go to the eraser, it erases the annotation. So I can erase the annotation, and then I can get back to where I was, or I can have another conversation. Now this, a lot of what I teach during the daytime is data analysis and business intelligence. So there's a lot of architectural diagrams. And with those architectural diagrams, and I mean systems architectures, it's nice to be able to make notes on there, but then at the same time, I want to get rid of my notes so that we have that clean photo again. Now, if you're presenting PowerPoint in Microsoft Teams, that's okay, because there's an annotation feature for that as well. But here in Teams, I can also use the other objects I have, right? So I can bring an object in here and say, which boots should we wear? Should we wear a ski boot or should we wear a hiking boot? And then we can have a conversation about it. I think this is a pretty cool way of working with information. So we go in here and we have that menu. You can also undo and redo things that you did. Now, this is just one menu. There's two other areas of this download whiteboard that are useful for us. The first area that's useful for us is if I go into the menu here, I can actually create behaviors for this whiteboard. So for example, I can go in and I can do an ink to shape, an ink to table, or object snapping. Now, snapping just aligns it on a grid. The ink to table and the ink to shape, I'll show you right now. So if I go here and move this over, give us more space here. So if I was to go in and I was to grab a pen here and I drew a square. I'm not great at drawing a square, so I'll just draw a square here. So you notice it's not the world's greatest square, or is it? Check it out. So one of the things that we have is that it'll recognize the shape of the object and it'll actually align it and make it quite nice. So this is very helpful if you have, this didn't work too well for me to circle, so I could undo that. I could do another circle. As long as it recognizes as a circle, it'll actually turn it into a circle. Now, there is a bit of a gotcha here, is that these are now persistent objects. So my eraser will not erase them. If I do want to get rid of them, I have two choices. I could select the object and delete it, or if I have multiple objects, I could select the lasso and I could circle it, and I could delete multiple objects at the same time. So that can be very handy as well. Now, the other, I'll show you also the table is something I use a fair amount. So just so you know right now, what I'm using here is I'm using this Wacom tablet, right? So I'm using this tablet here to do all my drawing, but it also has touch features. That's why sometimes it scrolls in and out. So a little bit of a useful tool. You just have to configure it for the environment. Okay, so if I go in here, if I want to go in and let's draw a table. So if I grab a pencil here, I'll grab a blue one. And if I draw a square, it'll recognize that as a square. But if I cut that square in half, it'll recognize it as a table. And this is a very, very quick way to create a nice grid that I can then start working with. And so that's, and the reason I got that again is because I went up here and I did my ink to shape and ink to table. Now, once I'm done with this whiteboard, and this isn't the world's greatest whiteboard, it's more of a feature demonstration, but I can actually export this out as either an image, a PNG image, or even an SVG image, which is a really high quality. So let's say my whiteboard is so brilliant that I want to get it printed as a poster and posted in the classroom. I can do that as well, or the office, right? Other things that I can do in here is I can post this whiteboard to a Microsoft team. So if I post this out to teams, it'll allow me to go in and see the teams that I'm part of. Now, I'm a member of multiple organizations. So in this case, I've logged into Microsoft Teams using my personal account, not personal, my business account, my personal business account, but instead of my academic account. So I can now post this into the team called the Hike Shop, and I'll put that into hiking maps. So I can either post it in there as a shared whiteboard, I'll post it in there, and now this will be available in that Microsoft team for others to work with and play around with. So I'll just cancel that out. The other thing that I can do is I can send an email summary. Now, what I like about this is that the email summary will actually go in and allow me to see everything that I've done, including the likes that I had in there. So when I go into an object, you can go into, let's say, for example, somebody likes these boots. They can select that object and they can give it a like. So every object can get a like if I want to. So you can see all the different objects in there can be a like, and that will allow me to see what people liked in that whiteboard. So I find that quite handy as well. We can go in here. We can also change the toolbar location. For some people, that's really important. I just keep it at the bottom. But well, a good example is here in this live stream. If I wanted to have a bit more real estate, but I wanted to put a banner at the bottom, I could put it up to the top, things like that. Okay, we'll go back. I can also format the background. So there's a number of different background formats. So I'm going to put the dot background on there just to give it some texture and such. Now, of course, sharing is a big element of whiteboards these days too. So if I go in, I can actually go in and invite people to be part of this whiteboard. That'll bring up my contact list, and I can then invite those folks to come in and join the whiteboard. Then I can get a list of everybody who is part of the whiteboard. And again, I can add participants by coming up with my whiteboard there. The other way that we can share the whiteboard is if we go into the whiteboard. Let's grab this here. If I go into the whiteboard, you can also get a link to the whiteboard. So you can create a sharing link to the whiteboard. So if I go sharing link, this will be actually the link to the whiteboard. I could copy that and I could allow others to come in with that link. I won't do that right now, but I could put that link in the chat, for example. So we can put that in there. So I hope that was interesting, the download version of the Microsoft Whiteboard. You can see there, that was a pretty quick tour of the Microsoft Whiteboard. I do have more detailed videos on my channel for different aspects of it, but I did want to today do a live demo of that Microsoft Whiteboard so you could actually see me working with it. You could see that, maybe I hit my pad a little bit here and it zoomed in, zoomed out, but I think that that's a really good dynamic way to work with the Microsoft Whiteboard in any type of team, collaborative, or academic type of environment where we want to go in and present it. Okay? Oh, you're welcome, Andrew. Absolutely. I'm going to go through and do the new whiteboard if you're interested, but I just wanted to do that one. But if there's any questions you have, I'm always happy to answer. But if they come up later, just put it in the comments. This will post to YouTube. So my main channel here is my YouTube channel here, and that's Learning and Technology with Frank. I think you're actually coming in through the YouTube channel. But that's my channel. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comment. My whole goal with my YouTube channel is to really try to help people use technology to teach more effectively. And ultimately, I would love to create a bit of a community around that. And I thought YouTube was a way to do that. So, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is we're going to take a look at the new whiteboard, which, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. I really, really love some of the features that are there, but I really do not like the absence of features that I just demonstrated. So it's not going to give me the exact same experience. So let me pop into there. So I'm going to pop into the whiteboard here. And so to get to this whiteboard, we have two options. Grab that here. We have two options to get to this whiteboard. The first way is you can go into just the app. And if you just type whiteboard.microsoft.com, let me just go in here and I'll copy this and paste this into the chat as well. So pop this into the chat so you can see this is how we would get to the new whiteboard. So we can actually go in. Again, don't worry too much about this large hexadecimal number. It's really just app.whiteboard.microsoft.com, and you will automatically get that whiteboard in there. Okay, so if we have a look here, you'll notice that in many ways it's very similar to the other whiteboard that we have. So we've got here the pens, but notice we only get 3 pens, and there's something weird. There's something weird in the neighborhood with this pen here. It's got a little arrow. I'll talk about that. We get our highlighter, but if you grab your highlighter and press on it, right, there's no changing the color of the highlighter. Oh, no, sorry, I'm wrong. On that one there, if you do click it, you can go in, you can change the color of the highlighter, and that applies to the pens as well. We have our eraser, right? So we have our eraser here, we have the lasso, and that's it. So notice there's no ruler. That was something that personally, I thought, okay, I like the ruler, but I don't love the ruler. But boy, did I ever get a lot of comments on the video that I created where I said there's no ruler. People were like, that's a deal breaker for me. I use it all the time for my math classes. And I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. So if I go here and click on the pen here again, I can change the color of the pen. So if I have, for example, on a purple pen there, and again, you can just write with the pen. And this is really, my handwriting is not good, but I do like the tablet that I'm using for that. I am using a Surface as well. I could do this on the Surface, but for the purposes of this, I'm using the Surface to drive the live stream here. Now, here's an interesting pen. I don't know sort of why this was really sought after, but with this pen here, you'll notice there's an up arrow. What this means is that if I go in, and I'll just zoom in a little bit. Now, here's another thing. When I zoom in, it doesn't tell me what percentage I'm zoomed into. It just goes through and zooms in. But if I go into here and draw a line, it puts an arrowhead. That's a little bit, I'll have to zoom in a bit more. So it puts an arrowhead on the end of that line. Come on, zoom in, let's go. Okay, so you'll notice that with this pen, it'll put an arrowhead onto the end of it. That's interesting and handy, but for myself, I'm not, I can draw a line and then do an arrowhead pretty quick. I admit this arrowhead is prettier than my arrowhead, but it still gets the idea across, right? So I can draw a line and just draw an arrowhead, however I want to draw it. So, but you can do this with the pens here. If I hold this pen down, let's hold that pen down. I can even do a double arrowhead if I want. So, again, it's a neat little cosmetic feature. I, again, don't really have a huge amount of value with this, but it is something that is to be noted. I can also get rid of the arrowhead altogether if I want, and then I can just have a regular line without the arrowhead. Again, changing the color of the pen if I want, so I can change it. You can also change the line thickness. That was also available for the download version as well. Okay, so there we have the small menu up top here. Now, if I want to erase it, notice here when I bring the eraser in, it's going to take out the entire object I drew. Now, you'll notice if you go and see the download version, with the download version, it would cut a line in here. So you could draw an object. Well, I'll just pop in there. So here with the download version, if I draw a squiggly line, so just grab some space here. So if I go in and I draw a squiggly line, and then I grab my eraser here, and I go in, you'll notice it cuts the line. So I find this to be a very useful feature because I might draw an object. Let's say I draw something like a circle. So I could go in and draw this is actually going to be an interesting thing to show you. So if I draw a circle, what's going to happen is the fact that I'm doing a ink to shape is there, so that views it as a whole object. But if I draw a circle without ink to shape, I can go in and I can actually get rid of a portion of the circle, right? And that can sometimes be very useful when I'm teaching. So if I go back to the web-based version that we're on here, I can also go in, and if I want to, you'll see that up here, I can share that out, and I can go into the gear here for the settings. Notice there's no ink to shape here, right? But it says enhance ink shapes. So that does an enhancement to the ink shape. So if I go here and I decide to grab a pen and I draw something like a circle, so I draw a circle. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. I draw a circle here, right? Notice drawing the circles here. It's not turning them into circles. Same applies to the triangle, right? So that this enhanced element here, where I go in and I say, okay, I want to go in and do the enhance elements. If I take that off and draw a circle, right? And then I turn it back on and draw a circle, right? It's not really doing much enhancement there. So that's the web-based version. That can be a little hit and miss, actually. Sometimes it will actually go in and draw the object and snap it into a circle or a triangle or a square, but it has been, in my case, inconsistent. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to choose all the objects. You can also hit Control-C to grab all the objects, or Control-A to grab all the objects, and then I can delete them. So that's a quick way to clear your board. Control-A, select all, and then delete. Okay, what's really powerful, though, when it comes to sorry, Thomas, I saw that. Hello, Thomas, how are you doing? Welcome. Let's have here. Yeah, so thank you so much. There's been a lot of different things happening on the whiteboard. So earlier at the beginning, I did the download version of the whiteboard, and now I'm just going through the new version. And absolutely ask me any questions you have, either here or even after the session. I really want to help folks out with this product because I find it so useful for teaching. I've been using it so much in my teaching that it's been really useful for me. So actually, just pop this up here again, just so that you see my smiling face. I want to make sure that there's a human at the other end of this whiteboard. So if we have a look here, the real power of the new whiteboard is in this create menu, in my opinion. Now, I can hide this if I want to get rid of the pens here. I usually keep them on all the time. We also have a little plus button here, which gets rid of that create box. So you can really clean up your environment as well. So I'm going to go into the create box, and here's where we have some interesting elements. We have the notes here, and notice that you have different colored notes and you have a note grid. I think this is great, but as I was showing in the previous one, I can change the color of a note pretty easy. I can do a note grid. So this seems to take up a little bit of real estate. When I do the note grid, I can select where it's going to be. And now here I have my note grid in here. Now what I'll do here is I'll just scroll. You can scroll in and out a little bit here. So I'll just grab this here, scroll out a little bit so you can see the note grid. And again, it's not going to really let me know what percentage I'm at. So I go in here, I'm on the pen menu here, so I can draw my notes, right? You can go in and you can erase elements that are on the notes while still maintaining that note grid. Now, the only thing here is, and then when I add notes, I can add notes in here. So you can add different notes that you might want in the note grid. So add different notes, it'll put it in there. You can also change the color of individual notes within the note grid. So you go in there, you can also go in and you can grab the pen menu, and that gives you the ability to draw on the note. So the note grid's pretty handy. You have different colored notes on here. Now, one of the things with the notes, I put the note here, I can copy this note. So if I copy this note, I can then go in and I can paste the note. We did that before, pretty cool. Let's just move this over a little bit. Again, it's an infinite canvas. So I'm going to paste down the note. So let's paste it down. Now, let's say I change the size of the note. So I'm going to change it to this size note. Now I'm going to copy this. I'm going to right click. I'm going to paste it in. You'll notice that it is the same size note. And that's the behavior that I want. Previously, with the new version, what would happen is it would actually be the big size note. You'd have to resize every note. So that's something that after we spoke with Microsoft, they did go in and fix, which is fantastic. We can also go into the note here. You'll notice that we can put the alt text in there, again, for accessibility. So it still gives us that feature. And then we also have underneath the more menu, it's really bring front and back. So let's say I'll just change the color of this note. So let's go ahead and make this sort of a pinky note. I can go here. You'll notice that the pink note is in front of the purple note. I can go in here and I can reverse that. I can send it to the back. So you can layer the objects. That's a pretty nice feature as well. Okay, so we go in there. That's just the notes. It seems quite simple. Text is text. So I can go in and put a text in here. I can put in, something like hello. Oh, let's try that again. So I'll go into text, pop that in there, and I'll type in hello world. So I'll put in hello world, and then underneath hello world, I can change the color. The one thing that everybody's been asking for with both the whiteboards is to be able to change the font, but that's not an option on either the download version or the new version of the whiteboard. I'm just going to call it new version. It's Web Teams. That's what this version is. So those are good. We have our shapes. So remember I was talking about how it wouldn't allow me if I drew a circle to enhance the shape. So I draw a circle. Again, on the old whiteboard, if I have that snap to object, that would turn into a circle. Well, here we have the same thing, but it's shapes. So if I want a nice circle, I can go in here and create a circle. You can change the color to match the background. You can make it so it's an empty circle. So you have a colored circle. You can create an empty circle here. I really can. Here we go. So create a border. So this is the border around the circle. I can go in and create an empty circle or no border, on the circle. And in order to create the empty circle, what you have to do is go in and change the color to match the background. And then you could go in to the edge. A little bit of a hassle to do that, but you get the idea of how you can manipulate the circle object with both a border and a fill. You can copy it, trash it. You can go in and do the alt text on it. And of course, go back in here, you can go in and you can send it front and back. So there's objects. I won't do all the shapes. There is, of course, now this is kind of unusual. I mentioned earlier that I don't really care for the fact that I can have a pen that puts an arrow on the end of it, because I could just go into shapes and effectively with the shape, I can go in and create the same thing, right? Now, the only thing, of course, with the arrow is I can make it a bendy arrow. So There you go. So there's the benefits there. Okay, all the different shapes that we have. I'll bring this back to full screen. Hopefully you guys are seeing this okay in terms of your screens so that you can see what I'm doing, what I'm manipulating here. Reactions. Now, in the previous whiteboard, I keep going back and forth with them. If I like something, so I can go along here. If I liked something, for example, this image, this was actually an image I took when I went on a hike along the Wanda-Fuka Trail on the west coast of Vancouver Island here in Canada. But let's say for whatever reason, I like this image. I want to say I like this image. I can give it a like. And now that image has a little like button on it. And I can capture that information when I export the whiteboard. Here, we get a much larger palette of reactions, but they're really just objects. So if I put a like on here, so I grab the like reaction, and maybe I like this circle, right? I can even make it a really big like. I really like that circle. What it really is just an object on there. What I mean by that is it doesn't indicate that the object is liked. It visually tells me that somebody liked the object, but if I export it, it's not going to tell me that this object received 10 likes. Visually, I can look, and if I'm collaborating on the board, I can see all sorts of reactions on there, but that's also a little bit challenging, right? So you can do all sorts of stuff. You get some reactions there. You know, maybe there's something you don't like. I do not like squares, my friend. So we go in there. We go back. Okay, now images is interesting. I showed you on the download version of the whiteboard that with images, I could go in and I could search for images. Here, I have to have the images available to me. So before you do anything with your presentation, you're going to have to create a bank of images that you store somewhere that you can then use in your presentations. So that is, again, a gotcha. So you want to make sure that you have a bank of images. There's no external search function. Now, you could, of course, have another browser window open. You could search for the image. You could copy the image, and you could paste it in. So if I go in here and let's search for an image of, there's a place where I live nearby called Banff, and we'll go in there and we'll go for images of Banff. It's a pretty nice place to go. So I'll just right click on this image. I'll go ahead and I will copy this image. I will go back to my whiteboard and check this out. I will paste that image and I got my square. What's going on? You can't copy and paste from an external source. So what I would have to do with that image is I would have to actually go to this image. I would have to right click. I would have to save this image as. I would have to put it into a location where I have, you know, I'll just leave it with the name in there. I'd have to save it in that location, saves and downloads in that location. Now I can go in and I can say, put an image from that shared location. You know, it's a lot of work as opposed to what I was doing before, where I was just searching for the image and I was just able to paste it right in. And you can't do that external copy paste, which I find personally a little frustrating. It sounds like I'm kind of down on the new whiteboard. It's just that some of the functionality and the systems that I've used when teaching with the whiteboard don't work with the new whiteboard. And because I use it so much, that's kind of frustrating for me. However, they have done a lot of improvements to it. They have done a lot in terms of making it better. And I think they're still very interested in doing that. But images is an area where we could definitely see some more work being done. Okay, images are useful. Now, I'm going to go documents before I do templates on purpose because templates is the real wow factor for the new whiteboard. Okay, so if we go in here with the documents, again, I can go in. I can search for documents. It's going to take a little bit to find it. Unable to insert the selected document. Okay, well, I don't want to do that. So we'll go into documents here. So cancel this. And we'll just grab a blank spot, grab documents. Now, what will happen here is with the document menu, so it's trying to insert a document of some sort on here. But let's go here and I'll grab documents, grab it here. So it's not actually, so this is broken. This is live broken for me. Because normally what will happen with the documents is that I will be able to go in, grab the document, go to images, grab the document, there we go. and search for the document that I'm interested in. So I'm going to search all documents in here. I'll choose that PowerPoint. So that was a little glitch that happened live. So notice that, unable to insert it because it's an unsupported file format. Notice that it says only PNG. So these are all image formats that it's allowed to bring in, right? So I want to bring in a document like a PowerPoint. Normally, it will allow me to bring in a PowerPoint or a PDF document, but today, for some reason, it's decided to not be very cooperative, right? So I'm trying to bring that in the same way. So that's a bit of a gotcha. We're happening live here. So I'm going to go into my templates. This is really where they put a lot of effort into the new whiteboard. Look at all the different templates in here. Now, once again, they're not giving us the option to create our own templates, as of yet at least. But if I go into, say, a learning template here, and I want to do a compare and contrast, this is a great way for me to put a compare and contrast directly into my whiteboard. And now I can make this larger, move it over a little bit if I want. And now I can go in and I've got this whole compare and contrast activity. I've got my whiteboard behind it, but you can see that I'm able to go in, drop in. I'll just grab a whiteboard. We'll grab this in here. And I can expand this out. So now we can do an entire compare and contrast template is here. We can start working with this with our students. I like these templates. There's a lot of them, especially when it comes to things like problem solving. There's a whole bunch of cool ones in there, like an assumptions grid and such. So there's a lot of classic templates that are in here that can be very useful. However, one of the things is this is a little bit hard to read on the screen. So what I need to do is I need to zoom in and zoom out and go in so that my audience can see it, my audience being you today, but my audience being my students. And then what I'm going to need to do is, let's say I grab this object. Well, now if I zoom in, zoom out, you see I've got everything in the template there, but I can zoom into that specific element, and then we can go in and we can work with it. So that's an example of some of the different templates that I have within it. And this is my creation menu in here. And again, a little disappointed that my documents kind of died on me today, right? Kind of went on me. And if you move these around, by the way, what you've done is they stay with the major object, but they also will stay in position of where you move them. I'm going to try this. I have to try the documents again. Yeah, still not going to be able to go in there. It's not able to select the document, so that's a bit of a fail in there. Okay, so I'm going to come back to my main screen here. So thank you. I'm going to kind of wrap it up there. That's kind of what I wanted to cover today. I just wanted to show you both of the two different types of whiteboards, different features on them, how I might use them in a classroom, and I suppose a bit of an editorial on the pluses and minuses of each. The old one is the one I'm most familiar with. The new one is going to be good. One of the things I didn't do with the new one, I'll just do it super quick here, is of course you can collaborate with it. So if you go in, you can use the share button. So you can go in and create a share link here. So you can invite others in to the whiteboard. It'll create a share link on there so others can come in, and I can copy this link. Notice the link's hidden, but I can copy that link, and then I could put it into a chat, or I can send it through an email or a messenger, right? So we have some options there. But so the sharing and the collaboration, wonderful brainstorming. The other thing to bear in mind is that if you're in a Microsoft Teams meeting and you share your screen and you share the whiteboard, the download version of the whiteboard, that will get recorded as part of the Teams recording. If you share the built-in whiteboard, it hasn't been recording in a lot of the classes that I've been giving. So we can go in, we can brainstorm on it, but that artifact does not exist. You don't get to see it being built in the recording. You can certainly save the whiteboard and then post it into the Teams, but I like the idea of when I share my screen and share the download version of the whiteboard and I'm drawing on it, students can go back with and watch me build it up. So thank you so much, Thomas, for being here. Thanks, Alan, for being here. I really appreciate you guys. This is my very first live stream. So if it was useful for you, I do appreciate you letting me know. So I appreciate you guys in the comments letting me know. Thank you for being a participant here. I really do appreciate it. You kind of were my my guinea pigs, for lack of a better word, to see how this works with the live stream. I am hoping to do more of these on different subjects. So please let me know if there's anything I can help you with in terms of using technologies, especially Microsoft technologies, to teach and learn better. Or if you are interested in data science, let me know. I can do data stuff as well, networking, cloud. I've been teaching for a very long time. So I really appreciate you guys very much. Thank you so much. I guess I'll end the session here with just a big thank you for coming by today. And please let me know in your comments if there's anything I can help you with, or if there's any other topics that you are interested in. Maybe this will be a Saturday thing. Also, let me know if this time worked for you. So I was also thinking Wednesday nights, which would be about 6 p.m. Mountain Time in North America. I think some of you are from the UK. That might be 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not interesting enough to be waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I'll always record them and post them on my YouTube channel. So for those of you that are coming in from a different area, you guys can come into my YouTube channel is Learning and Technology with Frank. So you can always hit me up there, and I'll say goodbye. Take care, everybody, and thank you so much for watching my first live stream. And I really appreciate all your comments and your participation. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.